nitric acid plus sodium bisulfate is obtained. Sodium nitrate on treatment with sulfuric acid, you get nitric acid plus sodium bisulfate. This is a laboratory preparation. Commercially, we prepare nitric acid by Ostwald's process. We prepare by Ostwald's process. How? We know that nitrogen reacts with oxygen. That actually we are treating from by Ostwald's process. We are preparing from ammonia. Ammonia is being oxidized by oxygen in the presence of platinum or rhodium as a catalyst. Using platinum or rhodium as a catalyst at a temperature of about 500 Kelvin and 9 bar pressure. You get nitrogen get oxidized, this ammonia being oxidized to NO plus H2O. NO is nothing but nitric oxide. You have to balance the equation. Nitric oxide plus O2 gives NO2. This NO2 reacts with water to form nitric acid plus NO. Nitrogen dioxide reacts with water to form nitric acid plus NO. This NO can be recycled. This NO can be recycled. So the byproduct obtained is also being recycled. So economically it is viable. So only we are using this as a manufacturer because none of the product is being wasted. Everything is being reused. So the profit made is very high. This is the way we do the Ostwald's process. Ammonia is being oxidized by using platinum or rhodium as a catalyst at temperature of about 500 Kelvin, 9 bar pressure. This is being converted into nitric oxide plus H2O. Nitric oxide further oxidized to nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide on reaction with water give nitric acid plus NO. This NO can be recycled. So it is economically viable. So only we use this as a manufacture. When they ask for manufacture and they may ask for preparation, this is preparation, laboratory preparation. These are the chemicals which are easily available in the laboratory. So we use it. When they ask for preparation and commercially means, then accordingly that equation has to be written. Interchange cannot be done. Keep that in mind. Shall I pass on to the properties? If I talk about the chemical properties, is a strong acid, and it also acts as a very good oxidizing agent. And you might have seen when we see the reactivity series, above that is below hydrogen you have copper, mercury, silver, gold, platinum. These metals do not liberate hydrogen gas from acids. But you might have studied in your 10th standard, when these metals, whatever the metals, when it react with nitric acid, they do not liberate hydrogen gas. Why? Because they act as a very good oxidizing agent. Hydrogen is liberated. The hydrogen is being oxidized to water, and this molecule gets reduced to NO, N2O, or NO2, depending upon the nature of the concentration of the nitric acid being taken. That you might have studied in your 10th standard. Similarly, we can see the oxidizing property of nitric acid. It's a very good oxidizing agent. For example, these reactions are very important, keep in mind. Copper reacts with dilute nitric acid because even in the case of nitric acid, whether it is dilute or concentrated, it acts as an oxidizing agent only. But the efficiency of its oxidizing power varies. In dilute nitric acid, its efficiency is less. In concentrated nitric acid, its efficiency of oxidizing property is very, very high. Silver nitric acid converts into copper nitrate plus H2O. We know that whenever an acid is reacted, then water will be one of the byproducts. Now, this is, I told that hydrogen is okay. Hydrogen is being oxidized by nitric acid. When hydrogen is oxidized to water and it has to reduce to some other form. What form? Actually, this is reduced to NO, nitric oxide. But when zinc reacts with dilute nitric acid, When zinc reacts with dilute nitric acid, that is okay. Zinc reacts with dilute nitric acid. It forms zinc nitrate, ZnNO3 twice plus. Then again, this is H2O, and here it is reduced to nitrous. This is reduced to laughing gas, nitrous oxide. This is the thing often asked. People get confused. So, question will be asked. With copper, you get nitric oxide. The zinc, you get laughing gas. N2O is laughing gas. That I will tell the children. The two products, NO and N2O. Zinc, when you say that, your lips will go like this, zinc. So, laughing gas. When you say copper, your lips will not widen. Copper, then you take it in mind, NO. Because people may undergo mistake in interchanging this, all I'm saying. When I say zinc, your lips go like this. So nitrous oxide, that is called nitrous oxide, is nothing but laughing gas. With copper, you get nitric oxide. Now the problem is how to balance it. Yeah. So this is balancing is little bit difficult. It's a redox reaction. Go by that way. Copper is +2, so difference is 2. Understand? Nitrogen, here it is in +5. Here it is +2. Difference is 3. Understand? So this difference, I put it over here. This difference, I put it over here. Understand? This is difference is 2. So this difference, I put it over here. By oxidation number method, I am doing. Nitric acid here is nitrogen is in +5 state. Here is +2. Difference is 3. So I put it 3 here. Now I'm rubbing off. Now I have to balance the nitrogen. Nitrogen I have put only 2, but already here 2 + 1, 3. So it is not enough for me to balance. Here 2, here minimum, if I want to do whatever other number I put it, I cannot put 3. Why means hydrogen is coming here is as one place. So it should be in an even number only. Understand? So next to number 3 is not possible. So I can go for 4. If I put for 4, I can replace this by 2. No, sorry. Here 3 is copper is there. Copper is there. I have to put copper there. So, sorry, instead of going with this, I will go with copper first. Copper is 3, so I have to put copper here. Understand? When I put copper here, nitrogen becomes 3 2 6 plus 1 7 is comes. Understand? So to balance the 7 nitrogen, I cannot put 7 here because hydrogen is in odd number here. Here it's even number. The next number is what? 8. So I put 8. When I put 8, this copper is 3, so I have to put 3 here. So what happens? 3 2 6 comes, so I put 2 over here, 8. Then hydrogen 8. This is 4. Work will be made easy. Otherwise, you try to balance this, it takes a long time. There is a redox reaction, so you can go by oxidation number method. I'm again repeating. I again am repeating. Here difference is copper is 2. Here difference. This is only because here nitrogen I'm not taking because nitrate. The ion has not undergone a change in oxidation state. So I'm not taking. Here it is 5. Here it is 2. Difference is 3. This difference I put it over here. This difference I put it over here. Understand? Next, then what happens on the oxidation number method? What you do? Once you put the number, you put that number over here, 3. Then if this is only connectivity, this is only connectivity, so you put 2, no problem. And if I put the nitrogen becomes 3 2 6 6 plus 2 8, so I have to put 8 here. When I put 8, hydrogen becomes 4. When you are balanced, I have not checked with oxygen. If you check with oxygen, it comes 8 3s are 24, 3 2s are 6. 6 3s are 18. 18 plus 4 plus 2. It is 24 costs. This is the way you can balance it very easily. When I come for zinc, similarly, zinc, this is +2. This is +2. Here it is +5. Here it is 2x minus 2 is equal to 0. 2x is equal to 2. Here nitrogen, 2 nitrogens are there. Then I have to wait. I have to do for 2 nitrogen. So this I will come for 2 nitrogen, therefore X is equal to 1, here X is equal to 5. Difference is 4, I put 4. Difference is 4. This difference I put it over here. Then if I put 4, I have to put 4 over here. When I put 4 over here, 4 2s are 8, 8 plus 2, 10. 4 2s are 8, 8 plus 2, 10. So I have to put 10 here. When I put 10 here, hydrogen 10, so 5. Now I balance the oxygen. 6, 10, 3s are 30. 3 2s are 6, 6 4s are 24. Plus 5, plus 1. How much I'm getting? I'm not getting zinc plus 4 plus zinc 30. 3 2s are 6, 6 4s are 24. 24 plus, am I doing correctly? Dilute nitric acid N2O. 3 2s are 6, 6 4s are 24. 5 plus 1. 6 is correct only. 5. 30 it comes. This is the way if you balance it, work will be made very easier and you will get the good, let us complete the reaction they will give. And when you, once you do it, complete the reaction, you have to balance it, then only you get the. This is the easiest way. Shall I go for it? There is one more tacticism also I tell the children. You have to keep this side. Once you know the left hand side, right hand side can be easily balanced. Understand? I will tell you, this is the oxidation number method because now I told you, now when you revise the portion, when you are revising, you do the same way you do the revise, then automatically you will understand, not at the time of the examination. When you do that, then you will find it difficult. When you learn itself, you will learn this methodology means, then the things will be made easier. Otherwise, you find it difficult to balance by oxidation number method. Left hand side, if you buy got it, right hand side can be done easily. Why I'm teaching you this? Because number is bigger. If you try to balance, it takes time. Sometimes you can end up with balancing in a proper way. Sometimes you won't. The time will be wasted. So 3 2s are 6, 6 plus 2, 8. 4 into 2s are 8, 8 plus 2, 10. 3 into 2s are 6, 6 plus 2, 8. 3 you would have to keep in mind. Copper 3, so 4, zinc 4. 3 into 2s are 6, 6 plus 2, 8. 4 into 2s are 8, 4 2s are 8, 8 plus 2, 10. Keep that in mind. Or Bobet oxidation number method of solving it. Next. Shall I go for it? Shall I go for it? Any doubt regarding this? I make because question will be asked for complete reaction because in most of the D and F block, most of the chemical reactions they have removed. And P, phosphorus, most of the chemical reactions are removed. So what are the chemical reactions? You have to concentrate more because these are the chemical reactions often asked. Keep that in mind. Shall I pass on? I'm passing on. Next, how it reacts with concentrated nitric acid. Zinc plus concentrated nitric acid. Here you don't have a problem because zinc nitrate plus concentrated nitric acid, always the byproduct is NO2 plus this two. Similarly, in the case of copper, nitric acid, in the case of concentrated, then you get copper nitrate plus NO2 plus H2O. Here balancing is easier. The molecules obtained are very, very simple. That you can do it. Concentrated acid, these are 4 here, 4 only. Then you can easily balance it. 4 nitrogen, 2 is there already, 2 I put it. H2O, 2 H2O. Here also NO3, NO2, 2 NO2 plus 2 H2O. Balance it, 4 3 6 2. 4 3s are 24. 3 2s are 6 plus 4 plus 2. Am I getting 4 3s are 4 3s are 12. Yes. Things become easier. You have to take 4 and 4, that's all. Next step. Now we are seeing that nitric acid is a very good oxidizing agent to oxidize only metals. But it also oxidizes non-metals. How? Iodine reacts with concentrated nitric acid. Concentrated nitric acid to form. Yeah, iodine is converted into iodic acid, HiO3. HiO3 is iodic acid. Then concentrated, so other products will be NO2 plus H2O. Balancing alkali. It is also reacts with phosphorus. Phosphorus plus concentrated nitric acid gives phosphorus. The end acid is converted into an acid. End acid is highest oxidation is phosphoric acid plus NO2 plus H2O. Similarly, sulfur reacts with concentrated nitric acid to form sulfuric acid plus NO2 plus H2O. Carbon reacts with concentrated nitric acid to form CO2 plus NO2 plus H2O. How to balance it? Here these numbers are very bigger in number, so there is no practice of you have to by particular. Here, if I see already you have studied iodine. The maximum oxidation state of iodine is +1. Because we have already seen halogen shows +1 plus odd number oxidation state is possible. The maximum oxidation state of halogen is +7. But instead you take +5. +5 you take 5 to certain balance it. That's all. Left hand side, this is no coefficient comes over here. 5 2 plus 5, highest oxidation state is 7, but you are taking +5. +5 into 2 certain. Then once you know this number, automatically you can balance it. 10 அப்ப இங்க automatically 10 வருமா, nitrogen இங்க இருக்க 10 இருக்க 10, hydrogen 10. So I write it as 5. 5 sorry. 5 2s are 10 plus 5 5 2s are 10. Iodine 2 is there. So iodine is 2, so I have to put 2 only. Correct? Then 10 hydrogen, 2 are there, so I put it 4. Then everything is balanced. Now we check with oxygen. 10 3s are 30, 3 2s are 6, plus 10 2s are 20, plus 4, 30 comes. Now phosphorus 4, highest oxidation state is +5. 5 4s are 20, balance it. 20. Then phosphorus 4, so I have to put 4. Now hydrogen is 20, 4 3s are 12, 4 3s are 12, 12 minus 20, it has become 8, so I balance 4. Then 20, I have to put 20 here, because only one place nitrogen is there. Easy to balance. Sulfur, the highest oxidation state of sulfur is +6, that you might have studied. +8, 6 are 48. When I put 48, sulfur 8 is there, so I put 8 here. Nitrogen 48, so I have to put 48 here. Water, then I have to balance hydrogen. Hydrogen 4 2s, 8 2s are 60. 48 plus 60 minus 60, how much? 8 plus 6 2, 3 1, 32. 32 means divided by 2, 1, 16. That's the way I do it. Then carbon, oxidation, here only one carbon. The maximum oxidation state of carbon is, I can say, only +4. So 4, I put it 4 here. Here 1 carbon, 4 nitrogen, hydrogen, 4 hydrogen. So I put balanced. This is the way you can balance it. This is also asked. They have not asked sulfur, but iodine and phosphorus are also asked. This is the way. Because we know the product. Products are very simple. Once we write the product, if it takes time for us to balance, they won't give the mark. Then why I have to waste my time in balancing that? This is a shortcut. The time is also saved, and you also gain the mark. Here I am again repeating plus iodine. Here no coefficient comes. It is treated with nitric acid. Similarly, you can treat this also. Zinc plus concentrated nitric acid, copper plus concentrated. They don't have any coefficient, but you write coefficient, therefore 4. Then right answer you can balance it. I am not teaching you for this for all chemical reactions. I am not asking you to by heart the coefficients for all the chemical reactions. Please, I'm again and again repeating. It is just for to balance such type of chemical reactions. I'm giving the rate. So because after learning the reaction, we need not lose our marks. Number of chemical reactions are totally reduced. Then this is the possibility they have to concentrate on these chemical reactions only. In that case, if you are not learning how to balance it and you are going to write out in your test paper, means it's a waste of time. Waste of time, and you won't gain marks. You will be losing even if you know to write the products properly. So why you want to do that? So only we are trying to say that. Simple chemical reaction, you have to balance it. That is when you read it, try to balance and learn. These are the tactics we are using for the reactions. It takes longer time, so better go by this way. Understand? I am going for the next one. Next step, you might have seen nitrate ions. Nitrate ion, presence of nitrate ion, conformity test, salt analysis you might have seen. Nitrate ion is identified by a brown ring test. What is the chemical reaction behind brown ring test? Nitrate ion, it may be of any, because anion only is very important. Cation is not important for us because we are going to identify only the nitrate ion. So nitrate ion, what is the concomitant test for nitrate ion? You treat with freshly prepared ferrous sulfate solution. Ferrous sulfate solution is treated. Then you are treating, then you are adding concentrated sulfuric acid along the sides of the history. Then what you are getting H+. Nitrate ion is being converted into NO. Here what oxidation state? X is equal to 5. Here it is 2. So what happened? Nitrate ion get reduced. Fe2 plus gets oxidized. Plus H2O. It's a redox reaction takes place. Nitrate ion reacts with, what is the conformity test of brown ring test? Nitrate ion is treated with freshly prepared ferrous sulfate solution, and you add sulfuric acid, concentrated sulfuric acid along the sides of the test tube without disturbing the content. Then it's a redox reaction takes place. Nitrate ion get reduced to NO, Fe2 plus gets oxidized to Fe3 plus, and you get water. Now, what is required is, this is NO is required for the reaction to undergo, because this is the one which brings down the brown ring formation. Now what happened? Now the ferrous salt, the ferrous, we are adding freshly prepared ferrous sulfate solution. It gets hydrolyzed with water to form ferric hydroxide, Fe2 plus. This is the form. It is this hydrated form. It will be. This reacts with NO to form FeH2O 5 times NO. It is formed. It is also a neutral molecule, so you will get Fe2 plus 1. And this water which comes out, it is revealed. This complex is responsible for the formation of the brown ring. This complex is responsible for the formation of brown ring. When you study the coordination compounds, you will study the IUPAC name. It is penta aqua. H2O should be named as aqua in coordination compounds. Sachin was asking why you are calling us amine. Here, it's in coordination compounds, H2O is called as aqua. Penta aqua. This is NO is called as nitrosyl. Because actually it is NO, when it comes as inorganic compound, we call as a nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, but it's coming here, it's as NO is a neutral ligand here. We call it as nitrosyl. Iron is iron 2 iron, because it's coming in the form of iron. So I write it as iron 2 iron, because oxidation state of iron is 2. Why means this is, I have to find out the oxidation state. X plus 0 because they are neutral ligand is equal to 2. So 2 iron, that we will study in detail in your coordination compounds. This is the way, this is the chemical reaction responsible for the identification of conformity test for nitrate ion by brown ring test. This is also very important. You can expect this question in your viva. That's all regarding nitric acid uses. You can do it. That's all regarding T block. Shall I go for, if the time permits, let me go for the introduction of partner. I will go for the introduction of D block, DNF. Now the P from you have only till there uses of nitric acid. The following thing, phosphorus allotropic form till oxyacids of phosphorus, everything is deleted. Then 16th group we have, 16th group we have everything. 17th group, 16th group, everything you have, yes. And in 16th group, 189 page number, you have just preparation of, there's chemical reaction of sulfuric acid is there. The flow chart and everything is not there. That I already taught you. I told you. Next day, 18th, everything is, 17 is everything is there. 18 is also everything is there. But only in 15th, that phosphorus, allotropes and everything is being used. That other things are there in your playground. Now we shall go for D and F block. So D and F block starts strong. Let us have your textbook by your side so that let us have the introduction part. D block element starts in fourth period. Fourth period after calcium. D block D block element starts in fourth period after calcium. After calcium is atomic number is 20. Then you start with scandium. Scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc. First series of elements you should know through by heart. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc. You have to learn that way because VBT theory and all, we need this element with electronic configuration here. But we cannot expect all the time they will give the atomic number and it takes time for you. So go learn along with the atomic number the elements of first series of D block elements. This is actually D block element starts in fourth period. When I start with fourth period, if I talk about the electronic configuration of scandium, I can write it as argon, 18 argon. Then I can write it as 4s2 PD1. I can write. So write it as a shortcut for scandium. Understand? If I go like this way, then if I take for titanium, I will write as 3d2. Likewise, it goes on. So which orbitals get filled up? 3d series is being filled up. 3d orbitals are filled up. So your D block element starts in fourth period, where 3d orbitals are filled. Next, in fifth period, 4d orbitals are filled. In sixth period, 5d orbitals are filled. In seventh period, 6d orbitals are filled. So there are four periods of we have d orbital D block elements in four periods, fourth to seventh period. We call this as 3d series. We call this as 4d series. We call as 5d series. We call as 6d series. Because why do we call as 3d series? Because the electrons enter into the 3d orbital, 4d orbital, 5d orbital, 6d orbital. So the first row of D block elements is called as 3d series, 4d series, 5d series, 6d series. That is the way we keep in mind. First, but you have to go into detail of 3d series. Well, the 4D, 5D, 6D are very rarely asked, so you need not worry about it. This 3D series have to be very clear with the elements. Understand? This is the information I want to tell you. Then you know that there is a difference in the electronic configuration. We will write this as 3D5 4s1 atomic number 10 copper. We will write this as 3D10 4s1. The difference is there. This you have to keep in mind. Shall I pass on? This is regarding. I'm going off. This. When I talk about D block elements, this chapter is called as D and F block elements. Why we call as a D block elements? If you see scandium, electronic configuration is argon. I can write 4s2 3d1. The valence electrons enter into 3d orbital. The valence electron enter into 3d orbital. Again, I am recalling you. Nucleus is at the center, first shell, second shell, third shell, fourth shell. If I keep it, first shell, second shell, third shell, fourth shell means in the fourth shell is 4s, it is filled. This is 4s, this means first, second, third, fourth. If 4s comes, means you fill up the 4s, then you come to 3d inner orbital. That you have to keep in mind. After filling the 4s, as per the Aufbau principle, the orbitals are arranged in increasing order of the energy levels. Then electrons, after filling the 4s, is getting into 3d. So we call this as a understand 3d inner orbitals that we call as penultimate shell. We say that penultimate means one shell before that. First class we call as penultimate. So this we call as a penultimate shell. Then after filling the 4s electrons, if the 3d is being filled up. When the electron is removed, after, for example, scandium plus, what is the electronic configuration? One electron is being removed. Where you remove the electron? You remove the electron from here, not from here. Keep that in mind. Children often make a 3d one. Scandium plus now they will write it as argon. 4s2 they will blindly write it. Don't do that. This is of inner. 4s is the outer shell. Electrons will be removed only from the outer shell, not from the inner shell. Keep that in mind. I'm clear, I think so. This you have to keep in mind. Next. Why we call as a d block elements? Because the valence electrons enter into d orbital. So we call as a d block elements. D block elements ranges are occupied in from group 13 to group 12. 1 and 2 are S block, 13 to 18 are P block, 11 to 12 we call as a D block elements. Understand? There is one word you might have heard. It's a transition elements. We call this as transition elements. What do you mean by transition elements? There is a definition for an element to be called as a transition element. What is called as a transition element? Elements either in their ground state, or in one of their excited state, either in the ground state or in one of their excited state, have incompletely filled d orbitals, then only you call as a transition elements. An element is called as a transition element when the element have either in the ground state or in one of their excited state have incompletely filled d orbital. For example, I go for scandium. Problem is this. I will go for scandium. Scandium atomic number is 21. Its electronic configuration, write it as argon. 4s2 Pd1. Understand? The only oxidation state of scandium is 3+. So it is D0. Understand? It has D0, incompletely filled. Understand? Yeah, the D0 means I don't think of. But here it is incompletely filled. Incompletely means it has unpaired electrons. Incompletely filled. Incompletely filled means then I call either in the ground state because it is not incompletely filled. There is no d orbital, so I need not worry about it. Here it is incompletely filled. Either in the ground state or in any of their excited state, if they have incompletely filled d orbitals, then only you call as a transition elements. For example, let me go first zinc. Zinc atomic number is 30. Electronic configuration argon. We 4s2. 4s we had 18, 18 plus 20. Then you write it as 3. This is the ground state. Zinc shows only one excited state, that is called Zn2 plus. Only the possible oxidation state for zinc is possible. So I write it as argon. We retain. Again I am repeating, this electron only removed. This is the ground state, this is the excited state. Because it can have only one excited state. Only one +2 oxidation state is possible for zinc. No other oxidation state is possible for zinc. So either in the ground state or in the excited state, it doesn't have incomplete filled orbitals. The orbitals are completely filled. So I don't call this as a transition elements. I call this as a d block element because the valence electrons enter into d orbital. Valence electrons enter into d orbital. I call this as a d block elements, but I don't call this as a transition elements. Why? The elements either in the ground state or in their excited state have no incomplete filled orbitals. Where all the d orbitals are completely filled. So it is not called as a transition elements. So next to zinc, you will see the page number of your textbook 211. Below zinc, what element comes? Zinc, cadmium, mercury. These elements are not called as a transition elements because zinc only oxidation state is +2, cadmium also +2. Mercury, you might have mercurous and mercuric is possible. Mercurous is highly unstable, mercuric is stable. +2 is more stable, +1 is unstable. The reverse of inert pair effect you might have seen. This is Hg plus is unstable. Readily it converts to Hg plus only. So only we are not talking about that. So we don't call these three elements as transition elements. You will ask the question, because mercury, you have two, mercurous and mercury. Mercuric is +2, mercurous is +1. +1 has incompletely filled d orbital. But the stability of mercurous is very, it doesn't show stability. Mercurous is not that much stable. Mercury equally stable. Similarly, when we study in inner parapet, stability of higher oxidation state increases. Stability of higher oxidation state decreases. Stability of lower oxidation state increases in p block elements. Plus, stability of higher oxidation state decreases. Stability of lower oxidation state increases in p block. The reverse will happen in d block. Stability of higher oxidation state increases. Stability of lower oxidation state decreases in d block. The reverse, what you're seeing in inner parapet in field block will be the reverse here. So like I told, Hg shows +1 and +2. +2 is more stable than +1. +1 is very rarely even +1 is from readily oxidates to +2. So only we say that zinc, cadmium, and mercury are not called as a transition element. They are called as a d block elements, but not called as a transition element. And if you talk about all the elements in the d block elements, mostly they are of metals. And the metals are very, very strong, and it's find its application. Most of the industries find this application only we make use of only these transition metals. That is, d block elements only use this application in most of the industries. Whereas, but metallic property is very less. But why it is find this application in various industries? Because of its strength, because of its strongness, resistance to corrosion. Because of these characters, it is find its application in industries. Let us study its properties. Whatever that is given under 8.1 subdivision is what is being given as a collective one. It is being explained at the in the following paper, in the following pages. It is being explained very clearly what is there. That really we are going to study. On what ground can you say? I am taking the example question. I will do all these questions because mostly in all these physical properties they will ask only statement questions. In what ground? This is the first page. You will be asked only the one question. What is called as transition elements? Otherwise, what is meant by transition elements? Why zinc, cadmium, mercury are not called as a transition element? That is the only question. It is definition is being given in the third paragraph of page number 210. For it's my old book. In your book, I do not know. Starting of the page, starting of the chapter, third paragraph, you can see the question. Definition for transition elements. Then I am going for the example question. On what ground can you say that scandium is a transition element but zinc is not? That only I explained. Zinc, when they ask, you should not write the answer that is the same that you have tried zinc. The possible oxidation state for zinc is this. This is the electronic configuration. Scandium, this is the only possible oxidation state of scandium is +3. Then there is incomplete filled d orbitals either in the ground state or in any one of the state. Then we call them as a transition element. So scandium is a transition element. Either in the ground state or in their excited state, there is no incomplete filled d orbital. So it is not called as a transition element. That is the way you have to explain. Without electronic config, if we explain, no mark will be from there. Next, if we come to the in-text question, the question being asked is, silver atom is completely have detailed configuration. Then how you say it's a transition element? How it comes copper. Under copper only you have silver. Copper electronic config, outer electronic configuration, if I say that 3d10 4s1. Here it will be 4d10 5s1 for silver. Understand? Silver +1, when we talk about +1, you know silver chloride, silver bromide like this only. So +1 only you know. If silver is 4d10. One is so no incompletely filled d orbital. Understand or not? Silver atom has completely filled d orbitals in the ground state. But how do you say it's a transition element? But in the excited state it is Ag+, then also it is 4d10. But it shows Ag2 +2. So it is 4d9 is also possible, as we have +1 and +2 is possible for copper. Like a silver also shows +1 and +2. +1 is stable, +2 is unstable. +1 is stable, +2 is unstable in silver. And we have silver complex last that ammonia complex we studied. Silver, ANH3, twice, 2 plus. In coordination compounds, silver complexes are more stable. Silver also shows +2. So only we say that it's a transition element. Copper +1 also is there, +2 is there. +2 again we have. Where you are seeing silver chloride, silver bromide only no. In the inorganic salt, silver shows +1. In coordination compounds, silver shows +2. +1 is also there, +2 is also it shows. But here it is 1 + 1 only, +2 is also possible. So only we say that it's a transition element. In the ground state, it doesn't have incomplete field d orbital. But in the Ag2+ state, it shows incompletely filled d orbital. So we call this as a transition element. Next. When I talk about the first property, melting point. Melting point and boiling point. Melting point we can talk about because metals, they exist in the solid state. So melting point is enough. Before going for melting point, let me talk about the bond founding metals. We know that metals have bond or metallic bond. A metallic bond that you have studied in the solid state itself. How we consider the atoms in the metal? You consider the atoms in the metal as a nuclei in an atom. A nucleus surrounded by a pool of electrons. Why? Is this nuclei, if I take one nuclei, we have some certain electrons surrounding the nucleus. But this nucleus have a control of this electron too in the case of this electron too in the case of atom. In the case of metal atom. So only we say that metal atom is considered as a nucleus surrounded by a pool of electrons. Pool of electrons means this nuclei controls the electrons of other atom which surrounds it. That way the attraction is there. So only the electrostatic force of attraction makes the bond stronger. But compared to ionic bond, metallic bond is weaker. Why? Here also electrostatic force of attraction. Here also electrostatic force of attraction. Here ionic bond is between one cation and one anion. Force is held tightly. But one nuclei is under the attraction of many electrons. The force is not that much highly balanced. So the metallic bond is weaker than ionic bond. Both are electrostatic, but it is weaker than this because one cation and one anion. The number of cations and anions which are involved in bonding is limited. Here it is not like this. Here solely the metallic bond is weaker than ionic bond. But here when I talk about the metallic bond, when there is a large number of unpaired electrons in the d orbital, because when I to form a bond, orbital should have one electron should be in the orbital, then only bonding is possible. Here, larger the number of unpaired electrons in the d orbital, metal body becomes stronger. Metal body becomes stronger. So metal bond is possible due to the unpaired electrons in the d orbital. Understand? Due to the presence of unpaired electrons. Because unpaired electrons, we know that metallic bond is formed by, when a bond is formed, when the orbitals having single electron overlap. If the number of unpaired electrons are more, body becomes more, bonds will be formed. So metal body becomes stronger. So let us go for that. If I talk about scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium. So here I am writing outer electronic configuration. I am writing 3d4s2 3d1. Here 4s2 3d2. Here 4s2 3d3. Here you write 4s1 3d5. Manganese 4s2 3d5. But after manganese, iron 4s2 3d6. What happened? Here unpaired electrons for scandium. I am generally writing d orbital, you fill it up. For d orbital, d1, so one unpaired electrons, 2 unpaired electrons, 3. Here it is actually 4 only you will consider. Because this is the thing for stability it comes, but unpaired electrons is 4. Maximum unpaired electrons is present only in manganese. This is not the exact configuration. This is to attain the stability. It is that one state is being taken up, but this is not the actual. Understand the meaning? Because actually is 4s2 3d4. It has 4 unpaired electrons. To make it stable, electron moves over there due to exchange of some energy and all exchange takes place and it takes up that. So actually it has unpaired electrons 4. It has unpaired electrons 5. Once you come to iron, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the unpaired electrons decreases. Iron scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper. Next to zinc. So when I go to manganese, metal bonding becomes more stronger. When I come down from manganese to zinc, when I go, metal bonding becomes weaker. Why? Number of unpaired electrons decreases. So if I draw the graph of, what is meant by atomization? What is atomization? Atomization is nothing but the energy required to break the bond of 1 mole of molecule to convert into their corresponding atoms is called as enthalpy of atomization. Enthalpy of atomization is the amount of energy required to break the bond to convert into their corresponding atoms. I have metal bond, likewise I have bond. To convert into atoms, the amount of energy has to be, I have to give the energy. But I have found out that this bond has become more and more stronger due to the presence of unpaired electrons. So atomization, my enthalpy of atomization increases till manganese. Then my enthalpy of atomization decreases. So when I talk about enthalpy of atomization, then atomic number, I can see that the slowly increases. Understand? Then it decreases. This is the way of atomization. But in your book, you might have studied, this will go like this and go like this. Go like this. This is considered to be manganese. This is considered to be chromium. You might ask, ma'am, manganese is the maximum number of unpaired electrons now you told. But enthalpy of atomization is down. This you forget it out. This will give the explanation in terms of melting point we will give you. But in the case of atomization, manganese shows maximum enthalpy of atomization only. As the number of unpaired electrons increases, metal bonding becomes stronger. Enthalpy of atomization increases. After manganese, number of unpaired electrons decreases. Enthalpy of atomization decreases. What is the reason being told for manganese? Even though it has unpaired electrons, maximum number of unpaired electrons, it doesn't use all these electrons involved in bonding. Why? Because it loses its stability. If the metal doesn't want to lose its stability, so it retains its stability by having the half-filled d orbital. So the number of electrons involved in bonding of manganese is lesser. So enthalpy of atomization is lesser for manganese. So you can say the enthalpy of atomization increases till chromium. After chromium, it decreases. Manganese, why less? You expect manganese, maximum number of unpaired electrons only in manganese. So maximum enthalpy of atomization of manganese should be the highest, but it should be having a dip. Why? Because in order to not to lose its stability, because d5 configuration is a stable configuration, it doesn't want to lose its stability. So it doesn't allow these electrons to involve in bonding. The electrons involved in bonding, it allows only few electrons to involve in bonding. Few electrons, metal bonding becomes weaker. So enthalpy of atomization of manganese is lesser. Understand? Then this is the same thing when I give for melting point also same thing. Enthalpy of atomization, melting point almost the same. Melting point is nothing but energy required to convert a solid into liquid state. How a solid will be converted into liquid state? The force of attraction has to be broken. Here metal bonding becomes stronger. Why? The number of unpaired electrons increases. So metal bonding becomes stronger. So melting point increases. After manganese, after chromium, manganese there is a difference. But as per the electronic configuration, we expect that manganese has maximum number of unpaired electrons. So you should have high melting point. Maximum melting point should be there for manganese because of stronger metal bonding. We expect it. But manganese shows a dip. Again, the same reason. It doesn't want its stability to be disturbed. So it allows only few electrons for bonding. So metal bonding is weaker in manganese. Then again, when I move again after manganese, melting point decreases. Why? The number of unpaired electrons decreases. metal bender bonding becomes weaker. So melting point. This is a enthalpy of atomization or melting point becomes remains the same. Because why? Melting when greater the number of unpaired electrons in the d orbital, metal body becomes stronger. That's the reason. When I talk about the atomic size, let us do this part and I'll complete it. I have 8 o'clock to go. I will complete this. With that, I'm winding up the class. When I talk about the atomic size, when I move along the period, we know that size of the atom decreases because of effective nuclear charge increases. That is all we know. So we expect the size of the atom should decrease. Yes. When I see the structure, size of atomic size, then atomic number. When you see the graph, then I see the graph that atomic size decreases. But after certain time, if you see that scandium, it is in green color. See the graph in your textbook. Scandium, this green color is the first group, 3D series, first period of D block elements, 3D series. It is still nickel, it decreases and it actually shows a size. We expect that atomic size of zinc should be the smallest in D block series. In the first 3D series, zinc should be the smallest. But I find it out that after nickel, copper, there is a slight increase. After copper, zinc shows a slight increase. Why? As I told, there is a decrease because effective nuclear charge increases, so atomic size decreases. But after nickel, then there is an increase. Why? 2, because when we come to zinc, the electronic configuration is 3d10 4s2. The d orbital is completely filled. Internuclear, because size is decreasing, means more number of electrons are being added, means interelectronic repulsion will be more. To reduce the interelectronic repulsion, the atom occupies larger volume, so atomic size increases. Zinc shows a slight increase in atomic size even though its effective nuclear charge is higher. Why? It's because there is effective nuclear charges increases, but d orbitals gets completely filled. Interelectronic repulsion increases. To reduce interelectronic repulsion, atom size is increased. That is the reason for increasing atomic size of zinc. Yeah, this is the first one explanation. When I move from 3D series to 4D, 5D, 6D, I expect that there should be a regular increase. When I go from 3D to 6D, then I should see an increase in the atomic size as the number of shells increases. Yes, this is 3D means 4D also. There is a show increase like this, it shows increase. This is 4D series. When I come to 5D series, I expect that there should be a gradual increase, but I expect that I'm not seeing that much increase in the 5D series. You can see that the red color line is the 5D series. There is not much increase in the 5D series, very less increase. Why? Because we call this as lanthanide contraction. Why I am talking about lanthanide contraction? Because when you come to 5D series of elements, take your periodic table. If you see the page number, that is, if you see the 8.1 table, 8.1 table, if you see that, after down scandium, next to scandium, down scandium, you are having Y, that is, next is you are getting lanthanum, next is actinium. Lanthanum atomic number is 57. After lanthanum, you have hafnium. After this, you have zirconium. But here it is 57. But hafnium atomic number is 72. From 58 to 71 is not there. It is kept separately in the lower part of the periodic table. The elements which you are writing from 58 to 71, we call this as lanthanoids. It's called as lanthanoids. Lanthanum is a D block element. Lanthanum is a D block element. The elements following lanthanum are called as lanthanoids. The elements having atomic number 58 to 71 are called as F block elements because the valence electrons enter into F orbital. So, what is lanthanum electronic configuration? If you see that outer electronic configuration, if you see that this will be 3d1 4s2, this will be 4d1 5s2, this will be this will be 4D, this will be 5D1, 6S2 will be. Understand? But after that, when it comes 57 electron, if 57th electron goes to d orbital, when it comes to 58th electron, it goes to 4f orbital. It goes to 4f orbital. If I take the 58th electron, since the valence electrons enter into f orbital, we call as f block elements. And since it occupies the 4f orbital, we call this as lanthanoids. If it is 5f orbital, we call that as an actinoids. This shell is called as an inner penultimate shell. This is the outermost shell. First last is called as a penultimate shell. Second last we call as an inner penultimate shell. This is called as inner penultimate. So only we call these elements as inner transition elements. There is F block elements are called as inner transition elements. D block elements we call them as a transition elements. We call this some inner transition elements. The valence electrons enter into f orbital. So then after filling up, then after 71 it comes. This will come 14. Understand? When it comes to hafnium, then they come over here. Understand? So if an f orbital is completely filled, when the f orbital is completely filled, what happens? Higher fillings, what will happen? Here effective nuclear charge increases. Effective nuclear charge increases because number of electrons increases. Effective nuclear charge increases. So nucleus pulls the electron towards the nucleus. But which orbital is completely filled? F orbital is completely filled. F has a poor shielding. It doesn't shield the nucleus. It has a poor shielding. If it has a F orbital is poor shielding, it doesn't shield. Poor shielding. But if the electrons are more, if the completely filled electrons of F orbital have more shielding effect, understand the concept. F orbital has poor shielding, it doesn't shield. But if it has completely filled electrons, as the number of electrons in the F orbital increases, shielding effect increases. So it shields. When it shields, S electrons are away from the nucleus. Nuclear charge is pulling the electron towards the cell. Because of the shielding effect of F orbital, what happened? What happened? Because why I am talking about shielding effect? Because F orbital is completely filled. Greater than F orbital has poor shielding. Shielding effect is less. But as the electron in the F orbital increases, shielding effect increases. It shields. So that what happened? S electron is away from the nucleus. So shielding effect is pulling the S electron away from the nucleus. Effective nuclear charge is pulling the electron towards nucleus. Both the forces are acting opposite to each other. So what happens? You expect large decrease in size of the atom, but you don't expect the large increase due to shielding effect of F orbital. We call this as lanthanoid contraction. Because of the lanthanoid contraction, the elements which are following hafnium don't show that much decrease in the size of that. You don't see that much increase in the size of the atom. So we say that 5D series atoms are almost the same size of 4D series. Why? Because of lanthanoid contraction. What is lanthanoid contraction? Regular decrease in the atomic size of lanthanoids. That write down the definition. Regular decrease in the atomic size of lanthanoids due to increase in atomic number is called as lanthanoid contraction. Regular decrease in the atomic size of lanthanoids due to increase in atomic number is called as lanthanoid contraction. Lanthanoid sonnale, if I say lanthanoids, there is not everything is comes. 4f orbital, 4f shell is coming, 4f orbital is coming, 4 shielding, everything is being involved. So only I am using lanthanoids. Regular decrease in the atomic size of lanthanoids due to increase in atomic number is called as lanthanoid contraction. With that, we shall start in our next class. I am winding up. It is almost 8 o'clock. I have to go for next class. Thank you. If you have doubt, point out your note down your doubts. We shall discuss on Monday's class. Thank you, ma. Thank you. Yes, ma. Thank you, ma. Yes.